Russia-Ukraine news today marks a historic military development as Ukrainian forces launched their first tank invasion into Russian territory since World War II. The bold offensive, which began on January 5th, immediately erupted into 42 combat clashes on its first day. Ukrainian forces have seized control of 1,200 square kilometers and 93 villages in the Kursk region. However, the territorial gains remain contested, with Ukrainian forces struggling to maintain their hold on approximately half of the captured area. With advanced electronic warfare tactics targeting Russian drones, this conflict is shaping into a modern battlefield unlike anything we've seen before. Is this the turning point Ukraine needs, or a dangerous gamble that could escalate the war to unthinkable levels? Let's discuss this in this video. Ukrainian forces have penetrated Russia's Kursk region, marking an unprecedented military operation that dramatically altered the conflict's dynamics. The offensive has resulted in Ukrainian forces gaining control of more than 1,200 square kilometers and 93 villages in Russian territory. The Ukrainian military launched their offensive in the early hours of August 6th, ramming through Russian border defenses. Their forces have achieved significant territorial gains, advancing between 1 to 2 kilometers in various areas daily. The operation has concentrated on capturing strategic locations such as Sudzha, establishing control over vital transportation hubs, disrupting Russian military infrastructure, and targeting key military airfields. The Russian military has mounted a substantial defensive operation, although initially struggling to repel the Ukrainian advance. Russian forces have reported shooting down 117 Ukrainian drones, primarily in the Kursk, Voronezh, Belgorod, and Nizhny Novgorod regions. Additionally, the Russian National Guard has strengthened security measures around critical infrastructure, particularly the Kursk nuclear power plant, situated merely 22 miles from the combat zone. The battlefield situation remains fluid, with control of territory shifting frequently. Currently, Ukraine maintains its hold on approximately 54% of the land Russia has captured throughout the entire conflict. Meanwhile, Russian forces have managed to stabilize their defensive lines near Russkoye Porechnoye, approximately 11 miles from the border. The conflict has furthermore evolved into a complex technological warfare scenario. Ukrainian forces have specifically targeted 4 Russian military airfields, aiming to diminish Russia's capability to deploy gliding bombs. As a result, the Russian military has strengthened its defensive measures, placing particular emphasis on enhancing electronic warfare capabilities, improving anti-drone operations, and safeguarding communication infrastructure. The presence of North Korean troops has added another dimension to the conflict, with approximately 11,000 North Korean soldiers being transferred to Russia for training, of whom 8,000 were subsequently deployed to the Kursk region. This development has significantly influenced the tactical situation on the ground, particularly in terms of infantry capabilities and defensive operations. The military strategy employed in the Kursk offensive demonstrates a significant shift in Ukrainian tactical doctrine. Ukrainian forces have adapted their approach, averaging approximately 90 meters of advance per day during their recent push. The Ukrainian military has introduced a series of significant strategic modifications to refine its offensive operations and enhance its effectiveness on the battlefield. Among these changes is the adoption of small unit tactics, allowing for greater flexibility and adaptability in combat scenarios. This approach has been complemented by the seamless integration of artillery support with infantry movements, creating a more cohesive and dynamic force capable of responding to evolving battlefield conditions. Additionally, Ukraine has improved coordination between armored units and ground forces, ensuring that tanks and infantry operate in synergy to maximize their impact. A key focus has been placed on neutralizing enemy artillery positions before advancing, thereby reducing threats to their forces and improving the chances of success during offensives. These efforts have been accompanied by a concerted push to lower equipment loss rates, which have been significantly reduced from 20% to just 10%. Collectively, these tactical adjustments have not only proven highly effective, but have also led to a marked decrease in Ukrainian losses while enabling the military to maintain and consolidate territorial gains against formidable opposition. Electronic warfare remains a decisive factor in the ongoing conflict. Russia maintains superior jamming capabilities, utilizing more powerful equipment to overpower Ukrainian signals. Nevertheless, Ukrainian forces have developed countermeasures, establishing a dynamic technological battlefield where advantages shift rapidly between sides. During their operations, Ukrainian forces systematically leverage electronic warfare to achieve multiple objectives. These include disabling Russian drones to diminish aerial reconnaissance and strike capabilities, protecting their communication networks to ensure secure and reliable information flow, safeguarding navigation systems, critical for troop and equipment movements, and disrupting enemy coordination efforts to undermine their operational effectiveness. The deployment of armored vehicles has undoubtedly evolved throughout the conflict. Russian forces have lost approximately 11,000 armored vehicles, including more than 3,500 tanks and 5,000 armored personnel carriers. Therefore, Russian units have resorted to using civilian vehicles, including modified cars and trucks, for assault operations. Ukrainian forces have adopted a more deliberate and calculated strategy for deploying armored units. This approach emphasizes close coordination between smaller armor units and infantry, enabling more precise and effective maneuvers on the battlefield. Tanks are utilized primarily as mobile fire support, providing critical firepower where it is most needed to ensure the safety of their vehicles. Ukrainian forces employ advanced electronic countermeasures, reducing their vulnerability to enemy attacks. Additionally, armor is deployed strategically to minimize losses while maximizing operational impact. The effectiveness of this approach is evident in the reduced equipment losses, with Ukrainian commanders successfully cutting loss rates in half during recent operations. This tactical evolution demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of modern warfare requirements, where asset protection is equally important as their deployment. The presence of North Korean troops in Russia's Kursk region represents a significant escalation in international involvement in the conflict. Pentagon officials have confirmed that North Korean forces are actively participating in combat operations alongside Russian units. The Pentagon has verified the presence of approximately 10,000 North Korean troops in Russia's Kursk Oblast. These soldiers disguise themselves by wearing Russian military uniforms and carrying fake military identification to obscure their true identity. Currently, Russian forces are training North Korean units in a range of combat skills, such as infantry tactics, drone operations, artillery deployment, and trench warfare techniques, to enhance their effectiveness on the battlefield. North Korean forces have suffered substantial losses in their deployment. Indeed, Ukrainian President Zelensky reported that more than 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed or wounded in the Kursk region. Moreover, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed 1,100 North Korean casualties since their forces entered combat in December. The verification of casualties presents unique challenges, as Russian and North Korean commanders often take extreme measures to conceal their losses. Ukrainian authorities report that wounded North Korean soldiers are frequently executed by their forces to prevent capture and interrogation. The deployment of North Korean troops marks a fundamental shift in the military partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang. Following their June defense treaty, both nations have strengthened their military cooperation. This arrangement provides several strategic benefits, allowing Russia to bolster its manpower without resorting to domestic mobilization, while North Korean forces gain valuable modern combat experience. In return, Pyongyang receives a financial incentive of approximately $2,000 per soldier each month, and both nations benefit from the exchange of military technology and expertise. The battlefield impact of North Korean troops has been mixed. Overall, these soldiers demonstrate high discipline but lack modern combat experience. Their initial tactics, such as moving in large groups through open terrain, resulted in significant casualties from Ukrainian drone strikes and artillery. Likewise, language barriers and unfamiliarity with Russian systems have complicated their integration into combat operations. The presence of North Korean forces has presently influenced Russian tactical decisions, as Moscow attempts to balance the need for additional manpower with the challenges of integrating foreign troops into their command structure. This development has notably affected the operational dynamics in the Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces continue their offensive operations. The latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict have markedly shifted the balance of power along the Eastern Front. Recent military data indicates that Russia maintains approximately 500,000 troops in Ukraine, surpassing the entire active-duty U.S. Army strength of 452,000. The redistribution of military resources has profoundly transformed the dynamics of the ongoing conflict, introducing new challenges and advantages for both sides. Russian forces have showcased a remarkable enhancement in their artillery capabilities, a factor that has significantly influenced battlefield outcomes. With daily artillery usage now exceeding 10,000 rounds, Russia has managed to maintain a relentless barrage that pressures Ukrainian positions. This sustained firepower is supported by a steady influx of ammunition imports from North Korea, alongside increased production output from domestic military industries, ensuring a consistent supply chain to meet the demands of prolonged combat. Conversely, Ukrainian forces find themselves constrained by limited resources, with their daily artillery usage reduced to approximately 2,000 rounds, a stark contrast to Russian firepower. This growing disparity has placed substantial strain on Ukraine's ability to mount effective defensive operations, particularly along the fiercely contested Eastern Front. The imbalance has forced Ukrainian forces to adopt more calculated and resource-efficient strategies, yet the overwhelming artillery superiority of Russian forces remains a formidable obstacle in their efforts to hold and reclaim territory. The Russian military command has undertaken a strategic repositioning of its forces, with a primary focus on reinforcing Western Donetsk Oblast. As part of these operational adjustments, newly mobilized troops have been deployed to bolster defensive positions, while fortified areas have been established near Pokrovsk to strengthen control over critical zones. Additionally, multiple layers of defense have been constructed along key routes, creating a robust network designed to impede advances and enhance their ability to hold territory. Russian forces have notably advanced in the Pokrovsk and Kursk directions. Their tactical approach has evolved to utilize smaller infantry groups, operating under natural cover to minimize vulnerability to Ukrainian drone operations. The transformation of defensive capabilities across the Eastern Front reflects the changing nature of warfare. Russian forces have demonstrated increased effectiveness in mechanized operations near Kursk and Vuhledar. Their success can be ascribed to some important elements, chief among them the flawless integration of infantry and armored formations, therefore enabling better coordinated and successful fighting actions. Furthermore, the deployment of sophisticated electronic warfare technologies has seriously interfered with adversary targeting capacities and communications. While the building of defensive fortifications has produced more resilient locations, making it impossible for enemies to breach their defenses, the enhancement of anti-drone capabilities has further enhanced their defense against aerial threats. The Ukrainian military has responded by intensifying its drone operations, which now serve as the backbone of its defensive strategy in Western Donetsk Oblast. This adaptation has proven crucial. As Ukrainian forces face ongoing manpower constraints and morale challenges, the situation remains dynamic, with Russian forces making steady progress in multiple sectors. Their recent advances near Selidov and the capture of Vuhledar thus far have come at a substantial cost in terms of manpower and equipment. The effectiveness of Ukrainian defensive operations continues to depend heavily on the regular provision of Western military assistance. The technological dimension of the Russia-Ukraine conflict has evolved into a sophisticated battle of electronic warfare and unmanned systems. Recent developments indicate a dramatic shift in warfare tactics, with both sides employing advanced technological capabilities to gain battlefield advantages. Russian forces have established dominance in electronic warfare capabilities, deploying powerful jamming equipment that effectively overwhelms Ukrainian signals. Their electronic countermeasures have become one of their most formidable weapons, evidently demonstrated through their ability to disrupt Ukrainian drone operations and communication networks. Ukrainian forces have adapted to these challenges by implementing a dynamic approach to electronic warfare. When Russian forces jam one frequency, Ukrainian operators straightaway switch to alternative frequencies, creating what military observers describe as a constant arms race. This tactical evolution has forced both sides to continuously modify their electronic warfare capabilities. Ukraine has substantially increased its domestic drone production capabilities, allocating $2 billion for the manufacture of first-person view drones. The nation's drone manufacturing capacity has grown significantly, marked by several key developments. Notably, production contracts for 5 million drones were secured in the first 3 quarters of 2023, reflecting the country's expanding capabilities. With the potential to produce up to 4 million drones annually, the industry is on track for even further growth. Since 2022, more than 200 drone-producing companies have been established, underscoring the sector's rapid development. Additionally, a dedicated Unmanned Systems Forces branch has been created to oversee and coordinate these advancements, solidifying the nation's position as a major player in unmanned aerial technology. The effectiveness of these drone operations is apparent in recent combat scenarios. In one notable instance, Ukrainian forces reported that out of 145 Russian drones launched in a single operation, 62 were shot down and 67 were disabled through electronic jamming. The disruption of communication systems has had a significant impact on battlefield operations. In response, Russian forces have devised an extensive strategy to undermine Ukrainian military communications. This includes targeting satellite navigation systems that are crucial for the accuracy of guided munitions, disrupting command and control networks to hinder coordination, and interfering with battlefield systems that facilitate real-time communication. Additionally, they have exploited communication vulnerabilities during adverse weather conditions, further complicating Ukraine's ability to maintain effective operations. Explicitly addressing these challenges, Ukrainian forces have adopted alternative communication methods. The military has implemented a combination of Starlink satellite internet and frequency relays to maintain operational effectiveness. Furthermore, Ukrainian units have developed sophisticated coding capabilities to modify drone frequencies, thereby reducing vulnerability to Russian interference. The technological warfare landscape continues to evolve as both sides adapt to new challenges. Ukrainian President Zelensky's establishment of the Unmanned Systems Forces represents a significant step toward institutionalizing drone warfare capabilities. Generally, this development has enhanced Ukraine's ability to counter Russian technological advantages, albeit with ongoing challenges in maintaining consistent operational effectiveness against superior Russian jamming capabilities. The territorial landscape of the Russia-Ukraine conflict has undergone substantial transformation as both sides vie for strategic advantage. Recent data indicates that Russia currently occupies 17.9% of Ukrainian territory, notwithstanding Ukrainian forces' successful penetration into Russian territory. Ukrainian forces have established a significant presence in Russia's Kursk Oblast, seizing control of approximately 1,150 square kilometers and 82 settlements. The buffer zone creation represents a strategic shift, rather than a traditional demilitarized zone. Ukrainian military operations have focused on destroying transportation infrastructure, establishing defensive positions, disrupting Russian supply lines, and creating tactical advantages for future operations. The territorial control dynamics of the ongoing conflict are heavily influenced by several key strategic locations, with both Russian and Ukrainian forces focusing their efforts on these critical points. Russia continues to hold control over some important areas, including the cities of Donetsk, Makiivka, and Horlivka, which together form a defensive triangle that is vital to their operational strategy in the region. Additionally, the Surovikin line, stretching approximately 2,000 kilometers, serves as a significant defensive barrier that Russian forces have reinforced. Their defensive positions also span a vast area, extending from the border of Belarus to the Dnieper Delta, securing a wide swathe of territory. In contrast, Ukrainian forces have zeroed in on the town of Sudzha, recognizing its strategic value as a crucial railroad junction. As part of their effort to disrupt Russian logistics, Ukrainian forces have systematically targeted and damaged 3 key bridges over the Sime River. This tactical move has had a substantial effect, effectively severing a large portion of the Russian-controlled Kursk Oblast from the rest of mainland Russia, thus limiting Russia's ability to rapidly reinforce or resupply its positions in the region. The Russian military has developed a vast network of defensive fortifications designed to strengthen their positions across critical areas. This defensive system is structured into 3 main subsystems, beginning with a 150-kilometer front line stretching from Vasilivka to Novopetrikivka. In addition, a secondary defensive line extends 130 kilometers from Orlyanska to the north of Bilmak. Finally, a series of fortified positions are strategically placed around major towns, further solidifying the defense. These defensive positions are equipped with advanced features designed to enhance their effectiveness. They include several layers of counter-mobility barriers to hinder enemy movement, as well as prepared artillery positions located within 30 kilometers of the front to provide close-range fire support. Infantry trenches are strategically integrated with fire support, ensuring a coordinated defense, while anti-vehicle obstacles and minefields further strengthen the defensive lines, making it difficult for enemy forces to advance. The Russian defensive infrastructure covers approximately 170,000 square kilometers of territory, henceforth creating a complex battlefield environment. The defensive network includes prepared positions for motorized rifle battalions, which are assigned to defend areas 3 to 5 kilometers wide and 2 to 5 kilometers deep. In the Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Russian forces have set up 3 separate lines of defense. The primary front line stretches across 150 kilometers, while a secondary defensive line extends for 130 kilometers. Additionally, strategic fortifications have been constructed around key urban centers to further reinforce their positions and secure vital areas. The effectiveness of these defensive positions has been demonstrated by the fact that Ukraine recaptured only 14 villages in Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia oblasts, with a total pre-war population of approximately 5,000 residents. Soon, these fortifications may prove crucial as both sides prepare for a potential escalation in military operations. Whether these defensive systems will withstand sustained assault remains uncertain, as Ukrainian forces continue to adapt their tactical approach. Unless significant changes occur in the military balance, the current territorial control status may persist, reflecting the complex nature of modern warfare in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Casualty figures from the Russia-Ukraine conflict reveal staggering human costs, as both sides grapple with mounting losses. Recent U.S. intelligence assessments paint a sobering picture of the war's toll on military personnel and civilians alike. Casualty figures is a challenging process due to several obstacles. One of the main issues is Moscow's consistent underreporting of its war casualties. The verification process is further complicated by limited access to battlefield areas, intentional suppression of information, conflicting official reports, and delays in casualty reporting, all of which make it difficult to obtain accurate figures. Intelligence analysts note that estimates vary fundamentally, even within government agencies. Pentagon documents leaked in the spring revealed different figures, suggesting Russian casualties between 189,500 and 223,000, including 43,000 combat deaths. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights emphasizes that actual civilian casualty numbers are potentially much higher than verified figures. Essentially, the challenge of accurate casualty assessment is compounded by Ukraine's reluctance to disclose its wartime losses, notably to American intelligence services. The impact of these losses has prompted strategic adjustments from both sides. Currently, Putin aims to avoid mass mobilization due to domestic political considerations. This has led to decreased standards for Russian military recruitment, resulting in reported disciplinary issues and increased crimes within the army. Military equipment deployment patterns have fundamentally shifted as both sides adapt to evolving battlefield conditions. The latest analysis reveals extensive changes in how forces utilize their combat assets across various operational zones. The Ukrainian military's approach to armor deployment has undergone significant changes as the conflict has progressed. At present, Western nations have supplied Ukraine with substantial armored support, including 14 Challenger 2 tanks from the UK. over 200 German-made Leopard 1 and Leopard 2 tanks, and 31 M1 Abrams tanks from the United States, greatly enhancing Ukraine's armored capabilities on the battlefield. Essentially, Ukrainian forces have modified their armor deployment tactics after experiencing substantial losses in the initial phases of their offensive. The military has notably reduced equipment loss rates through improved tactical coordination and strategic positioning of armored units. A comprehensive assessment of Ukrainian armor losses indicates that in the first 9 days of the Kursk offensive, Ukrainian forces lost 4 tanks, 41 infantry vehicles, 1 British-made Challenger, 2 tanks, and several American-supplied Stryker fighting vehicles. Russian Air Force operations have been significantly adjusted in response to the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defenses. The Russian aerospace forces currently have around 350 combat aircraft stationed in the region. Their operational tactics now reflect a shift toward fewer deep penetration missions, a greater dependence on standoff weapons, enhanced integration of electronic warfare capabilities, and a revised approach to close air support, all aimed at mitigating the risks posed by Ukraine's defenses. Russian forces largely deploy their air assets for defensive operations, as Ukrainian air defenses have shown remarkable effectiveness in neutralizing threats. Ukrainian systems have successfully shot down 90% of Russian cruise missiles and drones, 80% of air and ground-launched ballistic missiles, and 100% of incoming ballistic missiles in areas shielded by Patriot defense systems. Artillery continues to serve as the primary tool of influence on the battlefield for both Russian and Ukrainian forces. With a noticeable disparity in their capabilities, Russian forces fire approximately 10,000 artillery rounds daily, while Ukrainian forces launch around 2,000 rounds. Russia maintains about 5,000 artillery pieces, while the specific number for Ukrainian artillery is not disclosed. Additionally, Russia has around 1,000 self-propelled guns, whereas Ukraine relies on various Western-supplied systems for similar artillery roles. Russian artillery production has seen a substantial increase, with manufacturing capacity now reaching 250,000 artillery munitions per month. The Russian military utilizes a variety of artillery systems, including Soviet-designed Grad, Hail, multiple rocket launchers, Smerch, Tornado systems, Uragan Hurricane launchers, self-propelled 203mm Peony howitzers, and 152mm Hyacinth and Acacia self-propelled howitzers, ensuring a diverse and powerful artillery arsenal for their operations. Ukrainian forces have adjusted their artillery strategy by incorporating Western systems into their arsenal. They now employ a range of advanced artillery, including American M77 howitzers, French Caesar systems, British AS-90 howitzers, and the domestically manufactured 2S-22 Bordana, enhancing their firepower and flexibility on the battlefield. The advancement of electronic warfare capabilities has significantly impacted the effectiveness of artillery systems. Both sides have developed sophisticated techniques to improve target acquisition, enhance counter-battery operations, coordinate artillery fire more efficiently, and conserve ammunition, all of which have played a crucial role in shaping the dynamics of the conflict. The Russian military maintains a significant advantage in artillery capabilities, with NATO intelligence estimates projecting Russian production of 3 million artillery shells this year, compared to the combined US-European production of 1.2 million. This disparity has prompted Ukraine to develop domestic production capabilities, although scaling up manufacturing remains challenging. The deployment of military equipment continues to evolve as both sides adjust to battlefield realities. Ukrainian forces have primarily focused on preserving their Western-supplied equipment through improved tactical coordination, ultimately leading to reduced loss rates. Russian forces, conversely, maintain numerical superiority in artillery systems but face increasing challenges in maintaining their equipment advantage as Western support for Ukraine intensifies. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has become a landmark military engagement, with Ukrainian forces making significant gains, including seizing 1,150 square kilometers in Russia's Kursk region. Technology has played a pivotal role, particularly in electronic warfare and drone operations, with both sides adapting their strategies. While Russian forces maintain artillery superiority, Ukrainian forces have effectively countered with Western-supplied systems and air defense technologies, forcing changes in Russian tactics. How do you think technological advancements will shape future conflicts? Do you believe the balance of power could shift based on these innovations? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.